mutilation of children, and it should be prohibited by our law.
There are 245 meta-analytic reviews of varied treatment options for depression. Yet when it comes to gender dysphoria, there's only one path currently prescribed to help someone, and that's to become someone else.
Learn the lessons from other medical scandals like the opioid crisis.
Welcome back to Red Alert. Today we are going to discuss the issue of LGBTQ+. We believe that there are only two genders, male and female, and that it is not possible to change your gender. This is not a matter of opinion, it is a matter of science. And it is our belief that there are only two genders, male and female, and that it's not possible to change your gender. Obviously, gender is a biological reality. It's not something that can be changed by a person's feelings or desires. I think it's important to remember that there are physical differences between men and women, and those differences give us different advantages and disadvantages in sports.
In this debate, I have wanted to replace the misleading terminology gender-affirming care, especially as it relates to children, because one, it replaces the biological reality of sex, and two, because it falsely suggests that using the term affirming that there is anything good going on here. There are only two sexes, boys or girls, or boys are boys, yet girls are girls, and one cannot become the other.
Nayo, a rapper and father of 7 whose actual name is Shaffer Chameri Smith, expressed his opinion on parents who let their young children take hormone therapies and puberty blockers, saying that they failed to fulfill their parental responsibilities. He said that a child cannot drive a car but can choose his gender. If a 5-year kid asked his parents to let him transition to a girl, his parents should question him about what being a girl means to him. What will he say? I want to wear pink. All right, cool, wear pink, but you're a boy wearing pink. I want to play with dolls. All right, cool, play with dolls, but you're a boy playing with dolls. He said if these LGBTQ+ people could identify as goldfish if he or she feels like it, that isn't his business. It becomes his business when you try to make him play the game. He said he's not going to call them a goldfish just because they feel like it. But if they want to be a goldfish, then just go be a goldfish. There are many biological differences between men and women, including differences in bone structure, muscle mass, and testosterone levels. These differences give men a natural advantage in many sports. When a transgender woman competes against biological women, she has an unfair advantage. This is not just a matter of fairness, it is also a matter of safety. In the case of the Tour of the Gila, a transgender cyclist named Austin Killips won the women's overall category. This is a clear example of how transgender women can have an unfair advantage in sports. I am not saying that transgender people should not be allowed to participate in sports. Some people have argued that transgender athletes should be allowed to compete as the gender they identify with. Well, that's a difficult statement to be sure of. It will be nice, but no doubt transgenderism and LGBTQ+ is nothing but mental illness.
After surgery, my grades in school plummeted. Everything that I went through did nothing to address my underlying mental health issues that I had. And my doctors, with their theories on gender, thought that all my problems would go away as soon as I was surgically transformed into something that vaguely resembled a boy. Their theories were wrong. The drugs and surgeries changed my body, but they did not and could not change the basic reality that I am and forever will be a female.
In addition to the points, let's add that this so-called transgender community is very diverse. There are many different ways to be transgender, and not all transgender people identify with the same gender binary. Some transgender people identify as non-binary, meaning that they do not identify as either male or female. Others identify as gender fluid, meaning that their gender identity changes over time. How foolish this concept is. They surely need some psychological treatment. This is a controversial issue, but I believe that it is important to have a conversation about it. We need to protect the rights of biological women. If these non-biological transgender women are crying for their rights, what about the real biological women?
This is what happens to any women that do speak up. We watched what happened to Chloe Dygert when she liked the tweet of a Black woman that was about protecting women's rape shelters, and they labeled her as racist. And I'm like, hold on, do you guys not see that she liked a Black woman's tweet, but you labeled her as racist? And this is what they're willing to do, anything and everything to silence. And so they'll take anything that an athlete does and blow it out of proportion into something that it wasn't even. But as soon as you start saying racist, Nazi, fascist, hoping that it will silence any woman, and And it has worked, I think, up until now, where we have so many people speaking up now, like specifically, like right now is a lot of the more right-leaning media. Left-leaning still won't touch it. Any bicycling media will not touch it, but they will in order to attack you. And I mean,
So when you say the advertisers are all over you, what, they pull their sponsorships from you as a cyclist?
they will pull sponsorship. I mean, I'm going to go back to Chloe Dygert. I hate picking on her here, but did you see what Rafa did when Chloe Dygert liked Candace Owens' tweet about protecting rape shelters? Chloe was forced to put out an apology. And then
And
Rafa
Candace was
came
tweeting
back
saying, keep rape shelters for women only. Don't allow
for
trans
women only.
people
And she
in.
liked
Okay.
and she liked a tweet by Candace Owens.
Okay.
And she was forced to put out an apology by her team. And then Rafa came out and said that was not enough of an apology, and basically
What's
sent
Rafa?
her to Rafa is a clothing company. And
High-end.
Rafa, high-end clothing company. And they came back and they said that apology was not good enough. It was not enough. We need you to apologize more.
Oh my God.
Let's dive into the recent hearing of Rep. Hagman, who confirms that it is not possible to change the gender sex.
You have been willing to put yourselves out there to address something that many people want you to stop talking. They want to prevent you from talking. Don't listen to them. Make sure that you continue to use your voice to educate us, to educate the American people, because these children are worth saving.
In recent years, there has been a growing trend of children and adolescents identifying as transgender. This has led to a debate about whether or not it is appropriate to allow children to transition to a different gender.
Can you discuss why referring to these treatments as life-saving treatment is so extremely misleading?
Yeah, it's misleading for a number of reasons, because for one, the whole impetus of the scientific method is that we're discovering things. We're supposed to be in a process of, is this the right approach or not? And this whole discussion about saying that it's life-saving automatically says there's no room for discussion, there's no room for scientific inquiry, because the science is settled.
One of the main arguments in favor of allowing children to transition is that it is the best way to help them live their authentic lives. Proponents of this view argue that gender dysphoria, the distress that some people feel when their gender identity does not match their biological sex, is a real and serious condition. They say that transitioning can help to alleviate this distress and allow transgender people to live happier and healthier lives.
0%. There's a 100% failure rate for sex change operations, isn't there? Because it's not possible to change your sex.
That's right.
100% failure rate for these procedures.
That's right. You can't change your sex.
However, there are also some concerns about the safety and efficacy of transitioning for children. Some experts argue that the long-term effects of puberty blockers and hormone therapy are not fully understood. They also worry that transitioning can lead to regret later in life.
We are seeing an increase of medical professionals speaking out. Just this past week, there were 21 doctors that came out and said, we are very concerned about this. The own AAP, American Academy of Pediatrics, was referenced earlier, and 80% of their membership has been asking for a review of the literature, and they've been denied that review by the upper echelon. So there are, and I've listed many other countries, there are people who are standing up because they're seeing the harms done to these kids like Chloe Cole.
One person who has spoken out against the medicalization of childhood gender dysphoria is Chloe Cole. Chloe is a 19-year-old girl who transitioned to male when she was 12 years old. She now regrets her decision and says that she was pressured into transitioning by her doctors.
I used to believe that I was born in the wrong body, and the adults in my life whom I trusted affirmed my belief, and this caused me lifelong, irreversible harm. I speak to you today as a victim of one of the biggest medical scandals in the history of the United States of America. I speak to you in the hope that you will have the courage to bring the scandal to an end and ensure that other vulnerable teenagers, children, and young adults don't go through what I went through. At the age of 12, I began to experience what my medical team would later diagnose as gender dysphoria. I was well into an early puberty, and I was very uncomfortable with the changes that were happening to my body. I was intimidated by male attention, And when I told my parents that I felt like a boy, in retrospect, all I meant was that I hated puberty, that I wanted this newfound sexual tension to go away, that I looked up to my brothers a little bit more than I did to my sisters. I came out as transgender in a letter I sent on the dining room table. My parents were immediately concerned. They felt like they needed to get outside help from medical professionals, but this proved to be a mistake. It immediately set our entire family down a path of ideologically motivated deceit and coercion. The gender specialist I was taken to see told my parents that I needed to be put on puberty blocking drugs right away. They asked my parents a simple question: would you rather have a dead daughter or a living transgender son? The choice was enough for my parents to let their guard down, and in retrospect, I can't blame them. This was the moment that we all became victims of so-called gender-affirming care. I was fast-tracked onto puberty blockers and then testosterone. The resulting menopausal-like hot flashes made focusing on school impossible. I still get joint pains and weird pops in my back, but they were far worse when I was on the blockers. A month later, when I was 13, I had my first testosterone injection. It's caused permanent changes to my body. My voice will forever be deeper, my jawline sharper, my nose longer, my bone structure permanently masculinized, my Adam's apple more prominent, my fertility unknown. I look in the mirror sometimes and I feel like a monster. I had a double mastectomy at 15. They tested my amputated breast for cancer. And I was cancer-free, of course. I was perfectly healthy. There was nothing wrong with my still developing body or my breasts, other than that, as an insecure teenage girl, I felt awkward about it. After my breasts were taken away from me, the tissue was incinerated. Before I was able to legally drive, I had a huge part of my future womanhood taken from me. I will never be able to breastfeed. I struggle to look at myself in the mirror at times. I still struggle to this day with sexual dysfunction. And I have massive scars across my chest, and the skin grafts that they took of my nipples are weeping fluid today, and they were grafted into a more masculine positioning, they said.
In a hearing, Chloe said, "I didn't need to be lied to. I needed compassion. I needed to be loved. I needed to be given therapy to help me work through my issues, not affirm to my delusion that transforming into a boy would solve all my problems."
But my parents almost got the dead daughter promised to them by my doctors. My doctors had almost created the very nightmare they said they were trying to avoid. So what message do I want to bring to American teenagers and their families? I didn't need to be lied to. I needed compassion. I needed to be loved. I needed to be given therapy to help me work through my issues, not affirm to my delusion that by transforming into a boy, it would solve all my problems. We need to stop telling 12-year-olds that they were born wrong, that they are right to reject their own bodies and feel uncomfortable with their own skin. We need to stop telling children that puberty is an option, that they can choose what kind of puberty they will go through, just so they can choose what clothes to wear or what music to listen to. Puberty is a rite of passage to adulthood, not a disease to be mitigated. Today, I should be at home with my family celebrating my 19th birthday, and instead I'm making a desperate plea to my elected representatives. Learn the lessons from other medical scandals like the opioid crisis, to recognize that doctors are human too, and sometimes they are wrong. My childhood was ruined along with thousands of detransitioners that I know through our networks. This needs to stop. You alone can stop it. Enough children have already been victimized by this barbaric pseudoscience. Please let me be your final warning. Thank you.
Chloe's story is a reminder that the issue of gender identity is complex and has no easy answer. It is important to have a thoughtful and open discussion about this issue so that we can make the best decisions for our children. In the meantime, we urge you to listen to the voices of people like Chloe Cole. They have a valuable perspective to share, and their stories should not be ignored.